Hey fans, MMA Nuts, episode 114. I'm Matt Griffith, and I seem to be missing someone else, Ingo Weigold. He's on vacation in parts unknown, so we're just getting this shit started fast. We'll see what happens, but it kind of reminds me of that episode of Wayne's World, where Wayne walks off the set and then Garth's just sitting there, and it looks like his head's gonna explode. It's like this. So, I need to take a sip. I'm a little thirsty. Alright, news for the week. Matt Hamill unretires. Fox unveils the new ref cam and doesn't use it at all. Rory McDonald out of his fight with BJ Penn with a cut, like 40 stitches. Looks like a goddamn, what do you call it, llama vagina. It's a little curious. Does it look like he was supposed to get the drug testing? Now here's a way out of drug testing. I'm not saying he did it on purpose. Just looks a little curious to me, so we'll see. And the topper of all fights, maybe the best fight of all time. Tim Sylvia versus Andrei Arlovski 4. Former UFC heavyweight champion versus former UFC heavyweight champion. Could be titled Bad Blood. He fucked my girlfriend in the ass, and now I will kill Beast, who wears his UFC championship belt out while he goes grocery shopping. I don't know. I'm in. I think the UFC missed out on that one. This one's being hosted by ONE FC August 31st. Could be epic. I don't know. We should move right along to some scores. We usually don't give the updates for scores, but I'm going to do it because we haven't done it in a while. So for the UFC on Fox 4, I had 6 right, 3 wrong. Ingo was 7-2. The Magic 8 Ball was 6-3. So overall, I'm sitting at 104 and 75. Ingo 95 and 84. And the Magic 8 Ball is sitting at 89 and 90. So what do the scores mean? I don't know. Sometimes we pick them right, sometimes we pick them wrong. Magic 8 Ball is doing the worst this year. But there was a year where it was beating us for like half of it. And we're not fucking taking that shit anymore because it knows we're on a comeback. So let's move right along into the main card. UFC on Fox 4. I was going to say, it's probably best card of the year. Definitely the best on Fox. I was pretty impressed. Let's see. Fight of the night was Joe Lauzon and Jamie Varner. KO of the night, Mike Swick. And sub of the night was Joe Lauzon also. So he wins 100,000. I think Lauzon's becoming the new Chris Lyoto with being one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC now. Every fight he wins, he finishes. Either sub or KO. It's mostly sub. And they might always lobby for the Chris Lyoto award for like fight of the night. But now Lauzon's putting his contention or his name into contention for, I don't know, changing that award maybe. Starting to become maybe one of my favorite fighters. Alright, so we get the Swick versus Johnson fight. So it's good to see Mike Swick back. Been out of the UFC for a while. First round, he didn't, you know, he had his moments. Like, they both were rocking each other back and forth. Johnson takes the edge in the first round. And then the second round, Johnson throws a kick. Swick catches a kick. Takes a nice takedown. Lands 3 hard shots. Puts him out cold. So Swick making his comeback, fell, and wins in impressive fashion, which is nice to see. So maybe next for Swick, maybe a little Brian Ebersol if he's going to stick around at 170, but that is to be determined. So we'll see what happens with that. So it takes us to the next fight, Joe Lauzon versus Jamie Varner. This is contention or potential for fight of the year. I don't know. It was pretty exciting back and forth. First round, Varner drops Joe a couple times. Second round, Joe makes a comeback, and I think Varner breaks his hand at some point. And then to start the third round, Varner living up to his new nickname, Timeout. What the fuck? How do you leave your mouthpiece out and then call timeout again? So now he's got this stigma of always calling the timeout. I was surprised Lauzon didn't pounce all over him, but he ended up getting it back to the ground, locked up the choke. That was it. It was good to see Lauzon win. I was, you know, a little bit impressed by Varner, but You know, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. Lauzon looks impressive again. So I'd say for Lauzon, maybe give him like a Paul Sass. Let's see a little jiu-jitsu battle. And for Varner, maybe a little Jeremy Stevens. Let's see what happens. Then that takes us to Machida versus Bader. And this one, a little curious because Machida weighed in at 201. Which seems a little light, like maybe he's going to drop to 185. Not that he's going to challenge Anderson Silva, but a little bit weird. This first round, he comes out, and he's just kind of a feeling out process, throwing a lot of front kicks. The second round, he's doing his fucking hand job action or whatever, and trying to confuse Bader or whatnot. And then he switches his stance, so he was standing southpaw, he switches to orthodox. Bader comes rushing in, gets hit with a huge right and two more, knocks him out, wins in impressive fashion. Afterwards, Dana White throws it out that Machida won in most impressive fashion, so he will either face John Jones or Dan Henderson. Depends on who wins that one. Most likely John Jones, but it's kind of curious because what is a light heavyweight division that thin right now? So now we're going to recycle through contenders, but I don't know what's next for Bader, but it is what it is. That'll bring us to sponsors. We got Defense Soap. Offense wins matches, defense keeps you on the mat. Check them out. Natural soap, maybe organic, scrub you clean, all good. And Bet DSI, where you can bet on MMA and use the code MMA Nuts. Get yourself a 20% bonus. Also, MMAHQ.com, the world's best MMA daily deal site. Sell one item per day until it's sold out, or until 11 p.m. Eastern Time, or when a new deal begins. And you can also get stylish shirts like the one I'm wearing here. They have good deals. Check them out. Also, Bard's Beer, best gluten-free beer in the world. The craft beer happens to be gluten-free. You go to bardsbeer.com, you can find a retailer or a location near you. Delicious. That brings us right to Shogun versus Vera. This was just a weird fight to start off with. I'll just say that, but you gotta give credit to Vera for coming out and probably fighting one of the best fights he's fought in a long time, maybe the Vera of old. And then Shogun with the weird game plan of like trying to wrestle and take Vera down and hold him down. And Vera did have Shogun caught in a guillotine in the first round, but Shogun's striking was just, it was too much for Vera because he seemed like he was always landing more with the punches more so than anything. And where is Shogun's cardio? That's the one question for me because he's got the heart, that's for sure, but after like one round, like you see round 2, round 3, and round 4, he's just running on heart at that point. So it's going to be curious to see where he goes from here. I don't know, man. And then when he hits that combination, I think he hit him with like a hook and then dropped his mouthpiece, or Vera adjusted his mouthpiece, left, right, drops him down a few more, and that's it. So I'd say probably next for Shogun, you gotta match him up against Gustafsson, and then next for Vera, I think he still needs that rematch with Thiago Silva. So we gotta make that fight happen. He needs to get a little payback, but you know, Shogun wins, Vera loses, but I don't know. It's probably a win-win for both guys. So we'll see what happens. And that brings us right into viewer mail. So this will be a long one or short, I'm not sure, but here we go. Alright, Guy from Berlin asks, is it possible for an MMA fighter to be a dominant champion without resorting to dirty or illegal tactics, or are such things all part of the game in your opinion? And here it goes out a little bit longer, so stick with me. I certainly admire Anderson Silva's killer instinct, but more than anything, I was struck by the cluster of illegal moves he used in order to beat Chael Sonnen at UFC 148. He shoulder checked Sonnen during the weigh-in. He got caught smearing Vaseline on his body before the fight. He grabbed Sonnen's shorts when Sonnen was trying to take him down. Finally, he hit Sonnen with a borderline illegal knee to finish the fight. When I think about it, it seems that a lot of dominant champions use dirty or illegal tactics in order to win. GSP was once suspected of rubbing Vaseline all over his body, which led to a rule change about Who can apply Vaseline at what point in the fight? John Jones uses tactics, though technically legal, are pretty dirty. For example, he sidekicks the opponent's knees. Rampage needed double knee surgery after their fight. Perhaps I'm overly idealistic, but I find it difficult to respect a champion who uses these kind of moves in order to get an advantage, but perhaps that is the only way to stay dominant in the dog-eat-dog world of MMA. So, what was the original question? Is it possible for an MMA fighter to be a dominant champion without resorting to dirty or illegal tactics? I think it is, but for some reason these guys are trying to push the envelope, and I don't know if it's, what do you want to call it? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, but it sure as shit seems like that, but we shall see. Jared Holt asks, this is from before, why does Matt have such a dislike for the lighter weight classes? The 155ers, in my opinion, are the most stacked in MMA. Well, I tell you, it's usually like the 145ers. Those fuckers move too fast. I can't keep up with them. Like 145 and down. Like look at Dominic Cruz. That guy's like a fucking whirling dervish. I can't stand straight. I can't watch it. And it just doesn't, you don't get a lot of knockouts usually. It's usually more cardio, more decisions. And even when you do get the knockout, it just doesn't feel the same to me. It's not like two heavyweights where it's like when one guy fucking knocks the other guy out, you're like, holy shit. Like I felt that. When I see the little dudes, not like it's little girls fighting, but it's just, I don't know. I don't feel it. I just don't feel it. So, yes, they are skilled, but I don't feel it, so I don't like it. They move too fast for my slow brain. So Ryan Smith asks, thoughts on Cerrone calling out Pettis if he beats Guillard? Do you think the winner of Cerrone-Guillard should get Pettis? It's interesting. I just think Cerrone needs to focus on his fight. It seems like he's getting sidetracked at times, and I don't want to see him, you know, put on a performance like he did against Nate Diaz where he gets suckered into a brawl where he's just boxing and not using his kickboxing. So we'll see what happens, but I like the matchup for winner of that fight. Austin Grocott asks, who replaces McDonald against Penn? I think Penn should go over to Strikeforce. He should go down to 155, go over there and fight Gilbert Melendez. He needs some challenge, and I just don't see, like, at 170, like, who else do you have Penn fight? Even if he, unless he's going to move up to 185 and fight Anderson Silva, but that ain't going to happen. Because Dana White said that no Nick Diaz, no 185, no Anderson Silva, so he's not going to do the same thing for BJ Penn. He's not going to let him fight him, so I say Gilbert Melendez. And then Yogesh Mavila asks, thoughts on the idea that Rory pulled out of a fight so he doesn't have the drug test? I said it earlier, I think that's definitely plausible. It's curious, and somewhere in there it reminds me of like a Ken Shamrock when he was supposed to fight Kimbo Slice, and then all of a sudden the night of the fight he ends up getting a cut. I don't know if he was afraid to fight him, but it's just curious. Connor Hills asked, did Brandon Vera impress you? Yes, he did. I didn't think he had it in him anymore, so good to see him making a move. Jared Holt asks, what's better, Varner versus Lauzon or Korean Zombie versus Portier? Either way, best fights of the year from the lighter weight classes. I think Varner versus Lauzon was more exciting because you haven't seen Varner. I mean, he came in and beat Barboza in impressive fashion, so I think that fight had all it took to be maybe fight of the year. We'll have to see. Alright, Greg LaFountain asks, Matt, how will you remember Tito Ortiz? If your grandkids ask you what kind of fighter person was Tito, what would your answer be? That's a tough one. As a coach, I would say he was probably the best coach out of all of them on the Ultimate Fighter show. As a fighter, at least in the last, 5 years or so, the one thing that's going to stick in my head is what? Every time he lost, there was always an excuse. Like, I was injured, I was this, I was that. Like, I think, I don't know what the percentage is of all these guys that are actually injured when they fight, but it seemed him, more so than any other fighter, would always tell me about it. It's like, I understand it, I don't need to hear it all the time. or maybe retire earlier. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. Arthur V asks, how is Ingo's meeting with the Colombian drug cartels coming along? Well, they say you can score a kilo of the Colombian smack for a stiff hand job, and Ingo says he's coming back with 30 to 40 kilos of said Colombian smack, so I think very well, very well. And that brings us right into the knowledge segment. This may have been the fastest show ever, by the way. So, I was at the Six Flags Great America earlier this week, and as you go on each of the rides, they have signs, and some say one thing, some say another, but the first thing on each of these signs says you must have at least one leg and 2 arms to ride this fucking ride, or something along those lines. You must have 1 arm and 2 legs to ride. What the fuck is that? What are you discriminating because I don't have 2 arms? I don't know. Curious. And then this one's for Ingo. You remember, you always keep asking me if I see a red door and I want it painted black. You know why? Because that motherfucker's depressed. He's depressed. He doesn't want to see any color. He just wants everything black. Sounds to me like the guy needs a hand job. And for a man that can give like 30, 40 kilos of the Colombian smack, he might be good at giving that. You might want to help him out. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Why is my dog such a munch boxer? I don't know. But I think if you have any questions, you know where to do. You can send them to us here at fans@MMAnuts.com. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. You know the drill. Next week, Ingo should be back from vacation, rested, relaxed. I'm guessing his wrist probably hurts. I don't know why. Could be, could be not. Should be ready. It's all good. Thanks for playing.